Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. I'm reading for Taurus energy today, and your reading's a little bit all over the place, so if the intuitive messages don't really resonate, just skip ahead to when I start reading the cards, because it's kind of like a very different story, it feels like to me. But the song that I've just randomized for you to clarify the cards is Young and Beautiful by Lana Del Rey, which is such a beautiful song. It's Will You Still Love Me When I'm No Longer Young and Beautiful? Will you still love me when I've got nothing but my aching soul? I know that you will. It's one of my favorite songs. So gorgeous. And the funny thing is, it's from the Great Gatsby, the movie, which I mentioned in Aries's reading yesterday. There's a specific scene from that movie that I mentioned in Aries's reading. So this could be like your favorite book. Maybe it's a movie that you've watched recently. If there's an Aries involved, or you've got Aries placements or your Aries cusp, go and watch that reading too. It was very dramatic. The funny thing is, I was explaining this to somebody, and I was like explaining this whole, like, it was like a storyline in my head. I'd had all these visions, and they were like, oh yeah, I've been watching the Godfather movies, like that's the plot of the Godfather. And I was like, oh okay, I've just been channeling again a TV show that somebody's watching, which is what I do sometimes. But again, it's like, just because it's a TV show doesn't mean it's not something that can also happen in real life. I think the Godfather movies are based on real life, right? So it's like, I may not understand the situation fully, if so my guides have to show me something that I'm familiar with, that I will understand, in order to pass a message forward. I need to say as well, Taurus, I've uncovered a bit of a mystery. Now, this may be relevant to you, it may not be. But for the past like 2 weeks, since I want to say at least the last Aries reading, the you and them reading, so which I posted like 11 days ago, the number 11 is really significant as well when I'm about to talk about this. The video had 11 views. I posted it 11 days ago. 11 is a significant number, but I just thinking of how am I going to say this without it being too upsetting. So I've been channeling this court case, and I've been like, I don't know what it is. I keep getting it. Maybe it's some kind of TV show. But I remember saying in one of the readings, I can't specify which one, it's kind of been coming through in all the readings. And I've been saying it's like a collective thing. It's like, and the way I was perceiving it was like, when the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial was on TV, and like everybody was watching it and everybody was talking about it. So it was in the collective consciousness, right? All the topics that came up were in the collective consciousness. So it was something similar. I was like, it's like there's this, like the Jeffrey Epstein trial, right? It was like there was this big trial, and it was like everybody's kind of like watching it and they're shocked. And I kept on getting stuff from the trial. So I was getting kind of like Jane Doe, which was telling me, sometimes like the victims of a crime will be like there was the thing about like Baby P, right? They don't like name them by the full name. They'll call them like Baby A, Baby B, Baby C, which some of you might know what I'm getting to now, but it was coming through like Jane Doe, right? Victim 1 was Jane Doe 1, victim 2 was Jane Doe 2. And also this can be like the witnesses. So sometimes the witnesses in a trial, if it's something particularly volatile, like there can be like witness protection, which was coming through, where it's like the witnesses are also unnamed. So it'll be like witness 1, witness 2, witness 3, right? Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2. So it was that kind of thing. It was very felt like a court case. And I was like, I have no idea what this is. As far as I know, there's no major trials going on, to my knowledge. Now, I don't really watch the news because I find that my life is better quality if I don't, which I used to watch the news all the time. But again, I kind of avoid it now. It's better for my mental health. So you've got to do what you got to do, right? But I was like, as far as I'm aware, there's no major trials going on. And I even had this thing that was like, it felt in one of the readings, I think it was around the time I did Capricorn, I think it was an off camera, like when I'm preparing the cards, and it came through with like somebody with like a hand over the mouth, and again this kind of like core energy, and I was like, it's almost as though somebody's on a jury, but there's like a blanket ban on like the press covering it, or there's like a blanket ban on, like when you're a juror and it's a major trial, you're not allowed to watch the news or read about it or even speak about it, right? And I was like, it's almost like a juror who, they're on this trial, and you know, the evidence, like the stuff that they're hearing is so traumatic, but they can't talk about it. So all this stuff has been coming through, and you can go back and watch all the intuitive messages for like the last 2 weeks if you want to. But I kind of like, I just settled down and I was just scrolling through YouTube to kind of like look at, you know, look for something to watch on YouTube. And there was all this like breaking news headlines of, and I'm not going to go into specifics because it's really upsetting. But again, there could be something about your reading because you've got like this child energy and stuff like this. So there could be something relevant. Because again, sometimes things can happen in the news and it can provoke us to be like, I want to do something different with my life, you know? So it could even be something like that. But there was this breaking news last night anyway, and it was this horrible, horrible story about a nurse in the UK who was on trial for doing something awful. Really awful, right? Like really disturbing. And even like Aries' reading, they got the song Psycho Killer, like serial killer energy. This person has been at least on trial for being a serial killer, and it's really, really unpleasant and it's really shocking. And you know, like I was saying in Scorpio and Sagittarius's reading, I was like, it's like you're watching an event on TV and it's shocking. And then God, yeah, it was just, I just feel like it's been all in my readings for the past 2 weeks, and it's been, so I went over to someone and I said, did you know anything about this? Has this been in the news? Because I don't watch the news. I was like, has this been in the news over the past week or so? Has this been like, you know, ongoing trial coverage? And they were like, no, I haven't. Like I heard about it months ago, but I've not seen anything about it this week. And so it was like, was there a blanket ban on this trial until they reached the verdict? Because maybe by reaching the verdict, you know, like, was I picking up on this trial and was it covered is what I'm asking myself now. It's crazy to me. You know, crazy how I was picking up on this trial and then it's like, it's there, you know? Anyway, so in relation to that, before the news broke, about 2 hours before the news broke, I was hit by this massive wave of like sadness and depression. And I saw a rainbow and I saw butterflies, which are both symbolic of transforming, right? Like of like crossing the rainbow bridge. And I was getting the song Heaven is Here by Florence and the Machine. Now, I wasn't familiar with that song. But the idea of like heaven is here has been coming through multiple readings. Like I remember Capricorn's reading had this thing about like a sky full of angels. Like the sky was thick with like these heavenly, like bright white angels, to the point where it almost looked like fluffy clouds in the sky because the air was so thick with this army of angels. So it's like heaven is here. Heaven is like heaven, like the heaven is coming to earth, right? Heaven is intervening, like the aliens are coming or something like that. I don't know. I'm not trying to scare anyone. Again, a lot of the time I just channel movies. But if you watch the video to Heaven is Here, and I'm not going to expand further on this other than just to hint at what I'm channeling, and I don't know if it's something that's going to happen, but I am wondering if I'm just going to tell you what I'm getting. So the end of Heaven is Here, if you watch the music video to that, it's disturbing, so don't watch it if you've got any kind of like mental health issues, or you know, you're not feeling great, you know. And I'm not suggesting anyone do this. What I'm saying is that somebody may do this, and it's what Jeffrey Epstein did, because I was hearing get out of jail free card, and that's all I'm going to say on that. It's like somebody who knows, is like they've got the news, basically. They've got the news, the trial is done, they're going to jail, but they want to get out of jail free, right? It's like they've got that card to play. And again, I'm not suggesting anyone do this. I'm saying it's something that could happen, or it could be in reference to something that's already happened. Again, a really like darker messages coming through. I don't know why I channel these things, and again, it was awful. Like the feelings and the stuff that I was channeling while I was channeling it was awful. It's not something that I want to experience. But then again, when I get the confirmation, when I see what it is that I've been channeling, it's like this sense of relief. It's like, there it is, that's what I've been channeling. Okay, on to something a bit more cheerful for you, hopefully, Taurus. I went to the supermarket yesterday. Excuse me a sec. So my son's getting in the bath, but he likes to he likes to take the little stool that I sit on so that he can put his phone on it and like watch cartoons while he's in the bath. So now I've got to kind of like kneel up on a blanket. Okay, so something more cheerful anyway. I went to the supermarket, and outside the supermarket when I came out was this really gorgeous puppy. It was like a mixed breed, I think. I don't think it's like a, you know, like a pedigree puppy or anything like that. It was like a mongrel, but absolutely gorgeous. You know, like some dogs just look friendly and happy and cute, and you're like, hi, dog, you're my best friend. I know we just met, but we're best friends now. And it was really cute, and it had heterochromia. So it had like a brown eye and a blue eye. And then I was walking home, and there's this really friendly husky that likes to, like, he's always sat at the window watching people go past. And if he gets to kind of like go out into like the little front garden, he's like up on the wall, like he wants to say hi to people as they go past. And this husky has heterochromia. So there's something about either heterochromia, which is like when you've got two different coloured eyes, or dogs, specifically dogs with heterochromia. And then one of my little visions that I had, the dog didn't have heterochromia, but it was interesting that it was another dog. And it was like a very dark brown or black. I want to say it was a Staffordshire Bull Terrier specifically, but it had that kind of look to it. It was kind of like one of those kind of like muscly dogs. You know, sometimes people have them for like protection. It's kind of like, but they're always as soft as anything, really. So yeah, dogs could be something significant. I also had a really hot, the back of my right hand was really, really hot. I think somebody else had something about the like hot hands, as though they had like the hands on a steering wheel. You know, sometimes like when truckers put the hand on the window and they get like one brown arm. But yeah, I had like this a really hot back of my right hand, so that could be significant to somebody as well. 1010 could be something for you. I saw 1010 on the clock, so watch out for number 10s. Tends to talk about completion. Now let's get to the fun stuff. So just a bit of a warning for some of you Taurus, because I know Tauruses can be a bit money minded, you know, looking for investments, looking for get rich quick kind of schemes. Just be a little bit wary about anything that seems too good to be true. Be wary about pyramid schemes. They kept on showing me pyramids. And I was thinking about this. It was like this money making scheme that I kind of ended up doing once, but it was basically a chain letter. I didn't end up doing it. It was one of those things where it's like, send us, you know, we'll mail you more information. And then it was like, okay, you've got a list of like 5 people, send each of these people £1. And take the, like, copy the letter out, take the name off the top of the list, bump everybody else up one, and put your name at the bottom. And it's like, and send it on. And it's like, and then 5 people will send you money, and then the people that they send the letters to, they'll send you money. So it was a pyramid scheme, right? I didn't carry on with it. I was just like, no, this seems I don't know if this is legal, but again, I was getting like adverts for lottery as well, so there could be something about playing the lottery, a gamble, maybe even like an investment paying off. Again, this happened to me kind of like last week. It was only a small amount of money. Yesterday, when was it? I don't know when it was. Very small amount of money, nice surprise, but it's kind of like, because I'd made a good investment, I got payback on that. So I want to say it's something, Taurus, about making wise investments and wise investment choices, especially kind of like you know, do your research, like use the tried and tested schemes, the, you know, the official methods. Just try and find a good one. And there's something over here about like, look to what your ancestors did, like what worked for them, right? Like what did they do in this situation? So, or maybe even like getting advice from somebody who knows what they're doing with money. You know, like Grandad's really good with like stocks and shares, so I'm going to ask him for advice. Also this idea of kind of like, if you get a return on an investment, don't spend it, put it into a new investment that could really pay off for you this month. Okay, another thing, now this is kind of interesting, this is fun, this is getting into confirmation of kind of like an intuitive dream that I was having. So the first song you got was Afraid to Fall. And I was like, maybe it's like afraid to fall. It's like, I'm afraid to take that leap. I'm afraid to make that investment. So it was coming through as financial at first for you. But then you got Human Nature by Madonna. It's human nature and I'm not sorry. And then Love Game by Lady Gaga. So you got this really sexy energy with like Madonna and Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga, I believe, is a Taurus. But it's kind of like career and sex, not like sex work, but you know, like how Lady Gaga and Madonna are kind of like sexy performers. You know, they do like the human nature and love game, right? If you watch the music videos to those, I remember Madonna was kind of like all in latex, and she kind of had like all these, she was like sat on a chair, almost doing like a chair dance, but she was kind of like being pulled in all these different directions by all this like elastic. I can't remember the music video to Love Game by Lady Gaga, but I bet it was sexy, right? Was she doing like a chair dance, I wonder? I don't know how I'm getting it confused with that other Lady Gaga song. Oh, I can't think of the name of it. Sorry, it's hard to pull things in if it's not actually relevant to the reading. It's kind of like my brain vetoes it. But anyway, so, and you've got express yourself, don't repress yourself. And it's kind of like, what did she say? I didn't know I couldn't talk about sex. So it's coming through for you as with Love Game. Do you want love or do you want fame? It's like this gamble or this decision point, right? It's like, which route do I take? Because you've got all this kind of like weighing up of your options. Like, how do I play this? How do I play this game, right? How, and it could be like your career path. It's like, how do I do this? So my vision was, the situation was like romance in a professional environment, and specifically what I was seeing was somebody on a Zoom call, and they were doing an interview, like a web interview, and the person that was doing the interview was somebody either that they had a crush on, or that they knew from outside the workplace in some sort of way. But I had the feeling it was like the first time they'd spoken face to face, so maybe it's like, again, maybe it's kind of like a celebrity, kind of like, you know who they are, you've got a bit of a crush on them, but like, you know, you've not actually spoke to each other face to face, or it's like somebody that you've been sending emails to or something like that. I don't know. Or it's like, maybe it's like somebody that, you know, you dated once, right? And you got on really well with, but it didn't go anywhere. And then all of a sudden, oh, this person's doing the interview. So it was like the natural relationship between these two people was kind of like flirty friendly, and it was kind of like, your high school crush is interviewing you and you're kind of like, this is funny, like this is silly, but it was like you were trying to be professional. So I'm saying you, it doesn't have to be specifically you, but Taurus energy, like what I was being shown was like these two people trying to be professional in a workplace environment, but it had this sexual tension to it and this kind of like chemistry, or even just like friendship chemistry. So like I don't know if there's some kind of decision for you where it's like, maybe you've got to make a choice between, do you want to start a relationship with this person, or do you want to not have a relationship with this person and be professional and have a career? It's like the love game. I don't know. It's kind of, maybe you're doing something like Love Island as well. It's got because if you were doing Love Island, right, it's a dating show, but it's also a professional working environment, right? It's like you've got the film crew there, you're signing contracts, you're getting paid, you know. So it's like the mix of work and pleasure is what's coming through, or it's something to do with like a performer, because I kept on seeing the girl from Mainskin, Måneskin, I can't pronounce it. Let me try and pull in a name. Angelis, is it like Victoria Angelis? Is that a name? But she's very, very sexy, right? So if you look at her Instagram, she's like, she's showing body, okay, and she's gorgeous and she's sexy and she's hot and she's rock and roll, but that's part of her brand image, right? So it's almost like, oops, I didn't know we couldn't talk about sex. It's kind of like, why can't we talk about sex in a professional way, is the way it's coming through. Okay, so with all that being said and done, you definitely have some kind of wisdom. And portal, right? You've got owl and portal and the wizard underneath. Okay, let me tell you why that's relevant. So the owl is about knowledge, right? And especially like kind of magician type knowledge, right? It's like sacred knowledge, ancient wisdom kind of thing, granddad wisdom. Maybe somebody's a granddad, or there's something to do with your granddad. And then portal, it's like this opportunity opening up. Now you do have opportunity, right? And what's funny, and the reason why I'm saying it's funny that the wizard is there, is because, oh my god, look at these cards. So on the underlying, you've got cards like this. All your underlying is stuff like this. So you've got the wizard of awareness with many paths, right? He's like, which path do I take? Which choice do I make here? So again, it's almost like he's got to, it's like, do you want love or do you want fame? Like, but the way it's coming through is because you've got all paths lead home, right? This card here. later in the reading, all paths lead home. So it's like, it doesn't matter which path you take, they all lead, they're all going to lead you to the same place. It's like they're like parallel lines, you know. It's kind of like it doesn't matter which route you take, they all lead to the same destination, is the way it's coming through. But he's really contemplating this, right? He's putting a lot of serious thought into the choice he's making, right? With that owl energy, with that wizard energy, right? The wizened energy, and like the mountain underneath as well, which is funny because you've got like holy mountain here. So I don't know if this is somebody that you're connecting with, right? Again, maybe like a grandfather. It's like, I'm going to go and ask my grandfather for his wise advice because I've got this choice to make. And there's something as well about this. Okay, let me just put those two cards down a second. You see this energy here. So like, so can you see like the shell, the shape of the shell behind her? And then like, it's almost like these light beams here, and then it's here as well. So this is kind of like, there's something about that shape. It's making me think, if you watch like the Barbie movie, like the shape on the back of her bed, she's got one of those like seashell beds. So I don't know, maybe that's relevant to somebody in some sort of way, but that's kind of something I picked up on. And then even like heart home. So it's like you're trying to find your way back home. Interesting, underneath that is like the galactic mushroom. There is something about childbirth and pregnancy, right? There's this card here where she's got like an egg in her stomach. There's this card here where she's got like a seed in her stomach. This is kind of looking a little bit like, because the heart home, there's something a bit vaginal about it. And then the galactic mushroom, it sometimes looks to me like the baby's head crowning. So take any of that if it's relevant. It doesn't have to specifically be, I like this as well, like this between two worlds. It's kind of like half still in the, it's like Schrodinger's cat or something, like half potential, half crowning, right? Almost in this reality. And then underneath that as well, it's really fascinating actually. You've got a tidy house with these two houses, right? So again, it's like, which house do I choose? Maybe some of you are buying a house. Pisces had this. So if you're buying a house with a Pisces, this could be super relevant to you, or if you've got Pisces in your chart, because I remember Pisces had break the chain, and it was coming through like, you know, when you're buying and selling houses, you get into sometimes a chain where it's like you're trying to sell your house, but you're waiting for the person who's buying your house to sell their house, and the house you're buying, you're waiting for the people who you know, to get the keys to the house that they're moving into. So you end up in this chain of like waiting, and then if someone breaks the chain, it's like the whole sale can fall through. But it's like the advice is like, break the chain. Like for Pisces and you, it's like you're the ones that's supposed to break the chain. So it's funny because it's like waiting. You've got this like finding a home energy, right? Or moving house energy, or a choice between home, and then you're getting told break the chain. So for some of you, it's house buying, not for all of you. So I'll just give you the advice that I gave Pisces. The way it was coming through, and again, I can't give you financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't deal with property. I'm not the person to go to for like detailed information on this. But if this is something you want to look into as a potential option, there was this thing about like, don't worry about like buying, like remortgaging. Don't worry about buying a new home right now. It was like, break the chain by just sell your house and rent for a bit, if you're able to do that, right? And then it's like you've freed yourself up, then you've got no obligation, you don't have to wait for somebody to buy your house. You can just kind of hand in your notice, whether that's like a couple of months or something, depending on where, you know, who you're renting from. But it's kind of like you can move more freely, and you can move more quickly if an opportunity does come up, because you do have like opportunity, right? So it's kind of like you don't want to be tied into a chain of like a chain of dependency. And this does talk later in the reading about like dependency, kind of like inherited behavior patterns, which could be coming through for some of you. But again, it's kind of like you can move more quickly if you do it this way. So if you've got the finances, if you can do it in a way where, do you know what, rentings, maybe it's going to cost you a little bit more than, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you're in one of those situations where like you're selling a 2-bedroom house, you're buying a 3-bedroom house, so your mortgage payments are going to go up, right? But maybe you could rent a house similar to the one that you're currently in for the same price as the house that you're buying. So you're not like losing out, or you're not kind of like the money that you get from selling your home, you're not eating into those finances, you're just in this kind of like ticking over energy, but it frees you up to kind of like, if a really good house comes along, you can just kind of like jump straight in. So again, could be good advice for you. It's funny because I do know a couple of people who are like house buying or moving houses, but they're not Pisces or Taurus. So it's just kind of like, like when I kind of start thinking about my friends, I'm like, are they moving house? Yeah, it's like other signs. Yeah, and again, this idea of kind of like choices, like, so you've got this thing about the unicorn. It's kind of like, this will never happen. This is like once in a blue moon. This is a dream I have, but it's really improbable. Unicorns talk about like fantasy, right? But kind of like a true fantasy, like from the heart. It's very pure. With the 7 of water underneath, it's almost like choices, like, with it being 2 sevens as well, it's kind of like divinely guided. It's kind of like the Jesus number. So it's kind of like got this divine interference energy to it. It's like destined. But again, it's like he's taking a leap of faith here. This unicorn's taking a leap of faith, but he's kind of like, I don't know which way to jump, right? Again, with this many paths thing, it's kind of like the consideration before the leap of faith. It's like, okay, I know I need to take a leap of faith here, but I'd like to have an idea about where I'm going to land. Somebody could be literally flying, right? It's like the plane taking off or the dream taking off. Oh yeah, and look underneath that. Yeah, it could definitely be something about like taking a flight, like with this card as well underneath. I love the confirmation I'm getting. I've got confirmation on this card as well when we get to it. So gosh, I'm so out of breath. I'm just gonna pause and drink some water and check on my kid. I'm back in a second, guys. I said to him, are you okay? And he went, yeah. And I went, I love you, in a proper like baby voice. And he went, I guess, thanks. Okay, so are you ready? Are you buckled in tight? I've got the feeling, because he's took my stool and I'm kind of on a blanket on the floor, I've got that feeling of like when you are moving house and half your furniture's been loaded on the van, but you're still kind of like packing up the last things, so you like end up like sleeping on the floor, or you're just moving in, but the van that's carrying your vehicle hasn't, like, your furniture hasn't arrived yet, so it's kind of like you're still kind of like living out of boxes and kind of organizing stuff and like sitting on the ground. It's funny with that kind of like, where's that card gone now? Again, Aries had this in their reading, like clarity and organization. It's like sorting out the boxes in between the move. Okay, you start with, okay, like, honestly, strap in, folks, because your reading's a little bit out of this world. So whether this resonates for you, whether you're like, yep, my alien ancestors are coming back to visit and they're helping me out, or maybe you see yourself as a starseed. And I know this is kind of like not everybody's flavor, because some people have more of an earthy mindset. So I am going to try and ground this reading wherever possible into kind of like how this could be a metaphor for something going on in your life. But it's going to be a little bit tinfoil hat, but strap in, right? So butterfly spirit transformation. Now, the funny thing is, normally we transform into a butterfly, right? It's kind of like a metamorphosis energy of, we go from this kind of like lowly form, this kind of like caterpillar energy, and we go into the chrysalis and we come out and we've transformed. So this card specifically can sometimes mean like a glow up, kind of like, you're walking into the room and you're kind of like looking your best. Maybe it's kind of like, friends and family, or like a workplace, right? They normally see you with like your hair kind of like tied up, you're in like your jeans or like your work clothes, no makeup, that kind of thing. But it's like stepping into the room kind of like with your legs shaved, maybe with like a fake tan, she's got like the really shiny legs, wearing kind of like a cute new outfit, or your makeup on, or your hair done, like looking really glamorous, and everybody being like, wow, it's kind of like that makeover reveal energy. But the funny thing is, you seem to be wrapping yourself back up again in this reading. It's almost like the transformation in reverse. So it's like you were this kind of like divine presence, this kind of goddess among mere mortals energy, and then you ravel back up. So it's kind of like at the end of the night, kind of like crawling back into your duvet and like wrapping it tight around you and like going back into like goblin mode, like going back into like the gremlin that you are, kind of thing. I'm trying to be offensive, Taurus. I'm just being silly. It's just, most of you will get what I'm saying, right? It's like, when you wake up and you kind of like makeup's all smeared and you're spotty and your hair's a mess and you're kind of like, I'm a gremlin. And then it's kind of like you give yourself the makeover and wave your magic wand, which takes like 4 hours of intensive beauty therapy, and it's like, I'm goddess again. But yeah, so it's looking like that. It's looking like the makeover in reverse to me, because it comes in this order. You start with this and then you go to this. It's kind of like, I don't know, going back into the going back into the chrysalis. So normally it's the same energy for me. It's like, this is the unraveling, this is the chick coming out of the egg, this is the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. Specifically, it's a cat, so if that's relevant to anyone, cats and butterflies. Butterflies always symbolize Gemini energy for me. Cats talk about intuition for me. Can be kind of like Queen of Wands energy or High Priestess energy, if that's relevant at all. But yeah, it's kind of like the opportunity to, it's coming through because it has this Four of Air. It's coming through this, like, the opportunity to rest, maybe after a performance. So it could be something like, maybe somebody works on the stage. You know, maybe you've been doing like a theatre tour. It's like 40 days, 40 nights, all these performances where you're in hair and makeup, and then like the tour ends, the season ends, and you just get to go home and like do nothing. It's like you've earned your money, right? So you just get to kind of like lie in bed, because the Four of Earth is kind of like this lying in bed and kind of like resting and healing energy, and just kind of like, you know, doing nothing and enjoying doing nothing after giving like the performance of your life. So interesting that it comes that way around, like transforming, but like a reverse makeover, but in a good way, right? Not in a way where it's kind of like I'm being mean or detrimental to you. In a way where it's like, oh great, I get to, you know, hang up my dancing shoes and kind of curl up in my duvet and rest and rejuvenate myself, like replenish my energy. So it's coming through as healing, like the opportunity to heal. But you're also coming through, now this is a little bit mental. So let me show you these two cards first. And again, it's like you at the top of the mountain. So you at your peak, right? It's like peak performance energy. Like Taurus, you have just given the performance of your life. So whether this is like literally you're on stage, you're a performer, or it could just be, I mean, for some of you, it could be, you know, a work project where you had to just really work, you know, really, really hustle. Aries had a similar feeling. It's like they've been in King of Wands energy and they just needed to rest. So it's like you've put all your energy into this work performance, and it's like now you're on a 2-week break, something like that, because you're at the top of the ladder, right? You're at the top of the holy mountain. It's like maybe you got the attention of this. Again, it could be like someone older, like somebody older in the workplace, you know, somebody senior. Senior is a good way of putting it. Kind of like, because they're the mountain, right? It's like they're the one you've gone to see, or they're the one that you're, like, they're the one that's assessing you or something like that. It's almost like they're going, there's this specific card in one of my decks and it hasn't come out for you, but it's kind of like this meerkat and he's kind of painting all the animals and he gets kind of like distracted mid-process. And to me, it talks about somebody who's kind of like assigning roles to people. So it's kind of like this person's the one that you, almost maybe it's like a Simon Cowell thing as well. You know, like it's like you go and give your performance of your life and this is the guy judging you and saying like, it's like, okay, you've got the job, but I'm going to take some time to decide which role I'm going to cast you in, you know, something like that. It's like, I definitely want you on the team. Like, you've got a lot of potential. I can see your talent, but I need to kind of like have a think about whether you'd be like, I've just watched Heathers recently. It's like whether you're going to be a Heather, whether you're going to be a Veronica, whether you're going to be a JD. It's like, I need to figure out like who's playing which role. Or it's kind of like, maybe this is like an office situation and this guy's like, but it's, the funny thing is it's like home underneath that. Home and deep freeze. Again, this energy. Oh my God, look at all these cards underneath the Wizard of Awareness. It's like this, it's just coming through like a big rest. Like a big rest, right? Time off, being at home, reassessing, keeps coming through. So again, I can't quite tell who you are, but I'm going to say this is you, but flip it and reverse it if needs be. It's like, you know, at the top of your career, you know, peak performance, absolutely bossed it, kind of like at the top of the holy mountain, you know, and seen by a lot of people. I want to say it's like you're kind of at the top of the heap. But then it comes through with this, right? With cave and protection. The way it was looking to me, the word I got for this was terraforming, because she's like, she's still on top, right? But like the landscape's changed. So it could be with the landscape change, it can make me think of that song. Landscape changing, rearranging. I'm better than I've ever been. Let me just pull it in, hang on. No stillness, no sunrise, everything's going to be all right. I know that there's gonna be a change. Gotta find your way out of your fears. If you wanna come with me, then that's the way it's gotta be. I'm all alone and finally I'm getting stronger. It's by Sugar Babes. I'm all alone and finally I'm getting stronger. So maybe you're replenishing your strength, right? But you feel like you're alone in some sort of way, or maybe it's this older guy coming through. But yeah, it's kind of like terraforming. So maybe something about like environmental issues, caring about the environment, either globally, like the world, you know, being very eco-conscious, or it could be something about like terraforming your office environment, changing your office environment. Somebody else had this. It was coming through like boxes. I want to say it was Aquarius. Aquarius had this thing about like being trapped in a box and climbing out of the box straight into another box. And I used on the thumbnail like office cubicles. So it's like an office that's rearranging, right? It's like the environment's rearranging because this dry landscape, it could be so much more healthy, right? Healthy and maybe like productive with all these like bees and things that are flying around. So it could be something about like redesigning the office and bringing in a lot of plants, or changing, because you're getting a lot of stuff about moving home, right? So it could be something about your literal home, or like an office that's kind of moving. Just thinking about Aries' reading, I want to say they had this as well. And it's like we want to be somewhere that's, you know, we want to be in a more eco-friendly office building. So instead of this old kind of like 70s concrete block, we want to be in a place that's kind of like, you know, like when they have like plants growing up the side of buildings, and, you know, it's kind of like, you know, maybe even a city. So it could be like you're from like a badly designed kind of concrete city where there's like no trees, and you're like, we want to go somewhere where it's like an eco city where they've got like, you know, like sometimes cities have like a corridor of plants and trees that the bees can travel along and the wildlife can travel along. So, you know, the city isn't creating this kind of like no nature zone, but like nature is integrated with the city. It's really healthy as well, because I'm from Manchester, and Manchester University, I remember going into a park and seeing the research project, and it had information about it, and it was basically talking about, they were doing this research into kind of like city drainage and flooding and soil, and they were saying like the importance of having trees in cities, because the trees help to, when there's like waterfall, the trees help to kind of disperse the water, where if it's all kind of concrete, all the water kind of like runs into the sewers, and you're at risk, not sewers, like reservoirs and canals and things, and you're at risk of flooding. But if there's like soil and plants, it kind of like absorbs like a sponge. It absorbs a lot of that water, so it's really good for like preventing flooding, but also kind of like good for like the heat levels of the city. So because trees create shade. If it's all concrete, like all concrete and glass, it's just basically like a giant greenhouse, right? It's like the concrete acts like a mirror, and it's just like the city gets hotter and hotter and more uncomfortable, and like it's bad for the environment. Where if you are in a city that's kind of like, it's got a lot of tree coverage, it creates shade, it cools down the kind of ground level, and also again kind of like when the soil has retained that water, instead of the water just draining off, because the soil's kind of like damp and wet, it creates a cooler environment. So like really the importance of having, and for the planet as a whole as well, you know, we keep chopping down rainforests and creating deserts, and like the deserts are getting bigger and the rainforests are getting smaller. It's not good for the heat levels of the world. So this could be something that you're particularly worried about. But again, this idea of like the egg, it's kind of like you're going back, it's kind of like you're reversing the growth process, and you're going back into being an egg. It's like you're, because it's got this child in it, it's like you're reverting back into your own childhood in a way. This could be a safety mechanism. Again, it can be very, very healing to do this. Me and one of my friends who I know watches my videos, and so shout out, hi if you're watching. They're not a Taurus, but again, you never know which videos people are watching. But me and my friend really love Lego. and like I've got like my childhood Barbies as well. So it's like these kids' toys, right? These childhood toys. But if we're really stressed out, you know, sometimes we just need kind of like a week off to kind of like rest and replenish. And it's so kind of cathartic to just kind of like get those childhood toys out, get your Lego out, you know, dress up your Barbies, and kind of almost like revert to childhood in a way that is de-stressing, you know. And it's, I don't see anything wrong with that, you know. I love I love when adults geek out about like childhood interests, you know, whether it's like a kid's computer game like Super Mario, or like I don't know, Furbies or um I don't know, My Little Ponies, like whatever it is, if it's like, because there's really good feelings about that, right? So there's something healthy about it, something healthy about childhood nostalgia. And again, the industry of childhood nostalgia, we just had the Barbie movie, which is like the biggest fucking grossing movie ever, as far as I'm aware. I don't pay attention. If vaguely the vague interest I've taken in it has told me anything, it's done really fucking well. It's made like billions, right? And it's like, because people are nostalgic about the childhood toys, and because the movie in a really clever way kind of like tapped into everybody's feelings about it. You know, some people are like, Barbie is not feminist, and then like, and some people are like, Barbie is like my superhero, she's like, she gave me feminist, like Madonna, right? Some people could look at Madonna. I loved Madonna when I was growing up. I was listening to her like way younger than I should have done. But to me, she, like, her sexual expression like was very healthy, and like female empowerment, that's how I took her. But people could say she was like also subjecting herself to the male gaze. I don't know, there's different ways of reading these things, and it's okay, we can have different opinions. But again, like the Barbie movie did a great job of kind of like taking on everybody's opinions. So some people like really treated their Barbies well and kind of made them perfect. Some people made like the weird Barbies, right, that were played with too hard, and like the shaved heads and like painted and like nail varnish and stuff like that. But it's kind of like the nostalgia, however you came to that movie, is like they tapped into everybody's nostalgia in a really clever way. And again, there's something like, there's something about like grouping people together through childhood memories that's healthy. So I don't think this is something we should reject in ourselves or other people. You're also coming through with this energy of, okay, so let me show you these cards next. Especially with like, okay, these two cards together, this idea of like she's up in the air, right? It's like she's coming in it, like she's coming in with her spaceship, you know, this goddess like coming in from the skies. And then this energy here with Pleiades, all right, double mission, channeling and uplifting humanity. So it's almost like the way it's coming through is like the aliens dropping you off, right? Or, you know, your soul, maybe if you believe in reincarnation, right, it's like your soul being part of the ethers again, like being stardust and light beams, and like, you know, all those protons and neutrons that create your essence, your soul, like coming back down and being birthed in a human body and having a human experience, which I want to say is like why I'm getting this kind of like, you know, going from this divine being back into the chrysalis and turning back into a caterpillar, right? It's like you've chosen to be a caterpillar, you've chosen to crawl down here on earth, and not be in that kind of lighter celestial body, because you're here to have a human experience. And the human experience seems to be this job of like uplifting humanity, right? Maybe just being you know, a good friend, you know, consoling people when they're sad, showing up for people when they need help, being you know, being there with a laugh and a joke and a smile and a hug, to cheer up the room, you know, whatever it is. It's kind of like, it's like you're receiving your mission, you're receiving your purpose, and you're understanding that you're here and you have a job to do, and that job is to kind of uplift the collective consciousness. So you may definitely see yourself as a starseed, or maybe this is new to you and you're like, hang on, this is resonating, hang on, there might be something to this. Because here again, like with the holy mountain, it's kind of like the coming down, right? It's kind of like the spaceship, it's kind of making me think of Scorpio's reading, like the spaceship is landing. Or Sagittarius, they had this kind of like double reading where they were watching the aliens coming, they were watching the spaceship land, right? Do you see how that's happening? It's like, here you come to land, to touch down, to be at the top of this holy mountain. With this, it's like you're coming in with as the wizard of awareness, right? You're coming in with this kind of like divine knowledge, this kind of like higher awareness, this it's kind of like the super ego, like coming down to earth, to walk amongst the mere mortals and, you know, impart your wisdom on them. Because it's like this egg, right? It's like this egg being born. It's like the egg going, do you see how I mean? It's kind of like, let me show you. It's kind of like coming down in your spaceship, like coming to Earth. Let me show you. Just visually, it's like, here I come towards planet Earth. I'm coming down. I'm in my egg. I'm in my spaceship. Or like I'm getting entombed, right? It's like you step into your into your shuttle, you step into your pod as this divine being. It's like, it's like this is the transport system. It closes, you're inside that egg, right? That divine egg. Like you're coming down to land on Earth, and then it's like you go into the earth as the egg, kind of like, right, it's like you carry on going down, like down through the holy mountain to be like birthed, right, to become this egg. So again, it could be talking about like being reborn physically. I don't know, guys, I don't know. I'm trying to give you different readings here, like take what suits. So cosmic ancestors seed the light by staying grounded. So the importance of like really like planting your roots firmly, which again was in Aries' reading yesterday. So here we go, it's like the rewrapping, right, going back, the butterfly going back into the chrysalis is the way it's looking through, like this rewrapping, like back into a mortal human body. And then this is coming through with sanctuary. Which is gorgeous because it's sanctuary and the four of air. So it's kind of like, again, like if this is reincarnation for you, it's like maybe you're not reincarnated as a human, right? You're reincarnated as a bear, as a wild animal, as a cat. So it's like you come back down to earth with your mission, is the way it's coming through. But also, like, because it's sanctuary and it's kind of like this ragtag crew, it's like finding the other people who resonate with this. So maybe like, because this is followed by starseed. Sorry, I'm just kind of cat hair. My cat likes to sleep on this surface because he can like watch out the window at night. Excuse me. So it's kind of like starseed, what lights you up. So maybe this is, because it's like this, it's like being with the other star seeds, right? Being with the other people with a shared mission, because you're not the only one who came down to earth, like these others came down with you. So if this is starseed for you, it's kind of like, you know, trying to make those connections with the other star seeds. Like, even though you may have very different backgrounds, even though you may have you know, you look different, you sound different, different accents, different languages. It's kind of like you're spread around the world and you're this kind of like ragtag crew, like Dungeons and Dragons, right? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's like you play Dungeons and Dragons with these people. Because it's what lights you up, right? So it's like talking about shared interests, like finding the other people with those weird interests. You know how I was talking about me and my friend, like we love Lego, we're adults who love Lego. It's kind of like, and we can geek out over it. Like I love, because he's got a lot more than me. And so he sends me the pictures of kind of like, he's got this whole town. And I'm like, oh, I love it. But then I've got like loads of Barbies, you know? So it's kind of like, I don't know, like being a big kid with somebody that accepts that part of you. But again, it's been really healing. So these people, so it could be like going to some kind of conference, you know, like is Gamescom around now? I think it might be like a week away. So it's like going to Gamescom and meeting those people that you play Dungeons and Dragons with online, or a computer game with online, or you've got like, you're all really geeky about Super Mario, you know? It's like you go and you meet those people, but it's sanctuary. It's like, it feels like home, it's healing. It feels like you found your place, right? This is where you're meant to be. I just love the healing aspect of the four of air with sanctuary. So again, maybe it's getting into costume, right? Maybe it's like, because it always looks like a, you know, meeting. I remember a Pisces reading where it's like, you go into the castle and you're gonna, you know, you're there with your kids, and then you meet this character. It's like suddenly there's this character on your path and they're in like full costume, right? Full regalia. It's funny, Aries had this idea of like the full regalia and taking the regalia off. So it's kind of like, wrapping the like, you know, having the cloak around you, pretending to be a vampire or pretending to be Professor Snape, you know? It's kind of like being in cosplay or meeting somebody who's like in character in cosplay. But then because this comes with like choices and their consequences, it's kind of like, it's like the consequence of having a night out, like the consequence of giving the performance of your life, the consequence of doing like a 40-day and night tour, or the consequence of like putting all your energy into that work project is that you do need to wrap yourself up in your duvet and heal afterwards, right? It's like an energetic give and take. It's like if I use a lot of my energy, it could just be a night out. I'm the sort of person, like I go on a night out, I get dressed up, it takes me all day, kind of I get a lot of anxiety over it, and then like I have a great time once they actually get out. It's like I always fucking love it, and I'll talk, like I'm excited and I'll talk about it for ages afterwards, but I I want to sleep for a week, right? I'm old now. I can like, I can't, I have like 4 drinks and I'm like, where's my duvet? Even if I'm out, I'm like, somebody bring me a blanket. I'm not moving now. This is it. I live here now. This is, I sit, like I sit, I stay kind of thing. So it's like the need to kind of like heal. They need to be back with family and kind of rest after perhaps a work trip or something like that. Take it as it resonates. But it's kind of like this give and take. You made the choice to do that project. You made the choice to go out on a night out. You made the choice to kind of get dressed up. There's a consequence. Again, like because this is followed by child, I don't want to say child is a consequence, but it could be, you know, if you do kind of hook up with somebody, you might get pregnant, you know, if you don't take the proper precautions, but you made the choice not to wear a condom. So I'm not blaming anyone. It's kind of like we do make choices and there are consequences to those choices that we have to manage, and we have to make choices about those choices. So just a reminder there, just in case anyone's going to Comic-Con and hanging out with your geeky friends, you know, just I don't know what you're doing there. But anyway, like the child, it's talking to me about the inner child again, because you've got this idea of regression. So it's like reconnecting with your inner child in a really positive way. Now, this card sometimes gives me Dear Jessie, which is another Madonna song. Is Dear Jessie, see the laughter running through the love parade. Pink elephants and lemonade, dear Jessie. So it talks about this like flight of fancy, this kind of like imagination space. This, you may have Pisces in your chart. Again, this idea of like Pisces loves a bit of cosplay. They do. Loves a bit of Star Wars or dressing up like a princess. Like there'll be something, your Pisces friends, there'll be something that they geek out about, I swear to God. Like there's something nerdy about them. There always is. So but it's like allowing that part of yourself to come back out, right? Allowing yourself to kind of like play dress up or geek out about some kind of like childhood interest. Or it's like, don't be scared of regressing. Don't be scared of kind of like going back to that naivety inside yourself. Like, and again, it's kind of like going to Disneyland or something. It's kind of like, let yourself geek out when you see, you know, if your favorite was Goofy and you see Goofy and you like, your instinct is like run over to Goofy, ask him for a selfie, kind of like blabber to him about how much you love Goofy as a kid and how important it was. Just do it, right? Be that big kid. But because it says what lights you up and flying, right? It's like, what makes you feel like that? What makes you feel, what gives you that sense of kind of like childhood joy? Like, just do more of it. Even if it's just like, do you know what, tonight, kids, I picked you up from school, we're going to McDonald's drive-through, right? We're going to get a Happy Meal and I'm going to get a Happy Meal too. I'm going to play with our Happy Meal toys. It's like, even if it's just that, right? It could be simple. But there's something about these two cards, right? This is where it got really freaky for me. So because it's this ocean, right? But and she's like looking out at this big massive planet. Now it does look like Saturn, to be fair, but with it being followed by the King of Water, it's almost like he's the king of intuition, right? He's the king of psychic abilities. It's like he's calling to you. Again, it's kind of like grandfather. Like, look at like how this guy looks, right? It's like he's calling to you. He's like, come to me, my child. Come to me, my child. It could be like your dad. It's like you feel like you're being called somewhere. Again, it could be like this feeling of like, I feel like I'm being called back home, I feel like I'm being called back to the stars, right? Which could be the case, but again, I don't think it's up to us to decide when we go. I think it's, you know, it can happen by chance. It can happen through illness. I don't think we should personally choose to get back up there before it's our time, right? Because I feel like this is something that I think we do have a purpose here on earth. We are players on a chessboard and, you know, our decisions impact others. And do you know, the idea of like being in the right place at the right time, you never know what's around the corner. So even if you're really struggling, even if you're really feeling like, do you know what, I think I'm done, it's like, stick it out, because again, you don't know what's on the other side of that mountain. So hang on in there. But again, this feeling of like, I feel like I'm being called somewhere. Now, to me, the funny thing is, it's really strange. The funny thing to me is, I always get Cat Empire in your readings. The lead singer's got like loads of Taurus in his chart. Like last time I randomized a song for you, it's Cat Empire in your last reading. I love that band, and I was looking, they're touring again, but they're touring America, and I've always wanted to go to like San Francisco, and I was like, they're touring in San Francisco, I would love to go to that gig. If I could go to that gig, if I could teleport to San Francisco and go to that gig, it would be great. So I actually kind of, because the King of Water, he's coming through as Neptunian. I was really getting this like Neptunian energy from this, because he looks like Neptune, right? He looks like King Triton. So this Neptunian energy, which the planet Neptune, which rules Pisces, is all about dreams and ambition, like dreams turning into ambitions, right? The ability, like when we daydream, when we imagine what our life could be like, when we imagine where we could travel to, it's inspiring to us, right? It gives us a sense of direction and purpose. Like I would love to do that one day. I just saw a wish float past. I call them wishes. They're like the big heads off a dandelion clock, and like I call them wishes. I catch them, I make a wish and I let them go, or I blow a dandelion clock and that's like the wishes. So it's almost like wish granted. So like I say, I've always wanted to go to San Francisco, and I was like, I would love, like, it feels like now's the time, right? Now's the time. I would love to take my family to that gig. And I was Googling just to see, right, just to check it out. Like I was Googling prices, and the flights are really expensive. Of course it is, right? It's like across the world. And I was looking at hotels as well, and I was kind of thinking about like maybe we could just go for like a couple of days and come back, but the flights were the real expensive thing. But the hotels were dead cheap, and I was shocked. I was like, hang on, why are we paying like, it wasn't even in dollars, it was in pounds. And I was like, why does it cost twice as much to go to like, I don't know, Liverpool, like to go to like somewhere kind of standard? Sorry, Liverpool. Like Manchester, like why does it cost like 2 or 3 times the amount as like a hotel in San Francisco? I thought San Francisco because I've always heard that like house prices are like really expensive there, like it's like you're paying a lot of money to live in San Francisco. I was like, why is it so cheap to get a hotel room? I don't understand that. It's so unexpected. And it's not cheap, but it's like cheaper than it is here. Yeah, I was like, do you know what? The cost, like, I could go and get a hotel room for like a decent price, but the flight to get there, that's the expensive thing. And so when I saw Starseed King of Water with flight, like them flying came out, and I was like, that's so funny because it's like I was looking at the cost of flights, right? And then this came out, and it was like confirmation. So again, it doesn't have to mean it's confirmation to me, it's confirmation to you. It's like if there's somewhere you've always wanted to go, if there's like a place that's been calling to you. For me as well, normally it's Rome. I've never been to Rome, but I studied classics, and it's like I've always wanted to go to Rome. It's like, where are you being called to journey to? And then I don't know if it's happening, but there's this funny thing about like, because you've got... Right, the unicorn, right, is like the pure wish, right? The thing that you never thought could happen actually happening. And it's funny that wish floated past. And again, it's not my reading. I wish I was a Taurus right now because I want to go and do all the fun things that I've always wanted to do. But it's your reading, right? You're getting this blessing. But it's coming through with like, follow the leader and all paths lead home. Inner authority, intuition, turn your gaze within. So it is something about that fairy, right? It's something about that Pisces energy for you. And again, maybe you've got Pisces in your chart, or maybe look at what your Uranus, the planet Uranus, is doing, like which house it's in. Because it's like this, it's like a childhood dream come true, or like a childish wish coming true, or something like that. It's like, it's playful, it's fun. It's like in costume. And like with the child as well, it's like this Peter Pan kind of energy. And again, Peter Pan's like the boy who never grew up, right? So it's like, what you should be following is the inner child, right? Follow the inner child at this time. That's what's leading you. And it doesn't matter which choice you make. It doesn't matter which decision you make. The destination's always going to be the same. All paths lead home. Do you remember, like, it's like you have this, right? Many paths. And then also like heart home. Like, it's like, and then surrender as well. It's like surrender and weight of the world. It's like let it go. Maybe it's like it's not your decision to make. The biome underneath that as well, you're getting a lot of interesting stuff coming through. Earth pulsing and storms. Like, just show you these 2 cards as well now. So my god, there's something, it's kind of like Noah's Ark or something. Like, we're getting into like a weird territory now. You see this kind of like storm with the waterfall, and then she's like floating on her back, and then like this energy as well. It's like, so I was seeing something. Maybe we're getting into like a later reading. Maybe this is going to come out for somebody else. Like this as well. It's like pushing through realms. So I was having this thing where it's like I was looking at the ocean, but the ocean was the solar system, right? The solar system was the ocean, and the ocean was the solar system. It was like they'd merged, right? It was like they were the same they were the same energy, which I know isn't possible, but it's kind of in this card here as well, right? It's like he's in the ocean, but I'm not seeing him in the ocean. I'm seeing him in the sky, right? It's like he's from the ocean, right? It's like, I don't know. Anyway, all paths lead home. Trust the light within, like the child within, because that's leading you to the right place. And then it's leading you to education. So I want to say it's leading you to knowledge, because it's like, here's the little fairy appearing in this book. So it's like, you're going to get an education. If you do this, it's like, it's something like that. It's like you're going to do something, and it doesn't matter which path you take, you're going to receive the same education. So it's almost like which university do I choose. Either way, you're going to get the same qualification at the end of it. Of course, like you've got things like housing, or like, you know, the environment and stuff like that. But it's like the outcome's the same. Like, so don't sweat it, because whichever path you take, the important thing is you're going to learn something along the way, and that's what's going to take you to the destination. So it's almost like, whatever you choose, like love, fame, career, whatever path you choose, you're going to learn a lesson, and that lesson is going to be like a compass point that's going to show you where to go. So it's kind of like, almost like, it's maybe, you know, those choice-based games where it's like you have all these different choices, but they kind of lead to one point, and then you like know which direction to take from there. It's kind of like something like that. But then it's got, so then you have, again, this older generation coming through, right? The ancestors who are up here in the stars, the ancestors in the stars. So this could be like grandparents who've passed over, like leading you. It's like they're leading you to something, and they're saying break the chain. So because this is like the child following the ancestors, right? The child following the ancestors to a certain point. And I want to say, then you're going to do something. It's like you're going to have the knowledge of what they did. So again, it's kind of like, you're going to invest the way that they invested, or you're going to follow the path set out by the older generation to a certain point. But even whether it works or it doesn't work, it's going to give you the knowledge to know where to go next. It's like this is the knowledge waiting for you. And then break the train, ancestral patterns, healing, rewriting the future. The idea of rewriting the future, because we inherit the future from what we're taught, right? Our education teaches us our potential. I sometimes talk about this guy. He was on a Netflix documentary about how the brain works, and he had no ability to predict the future. If you said to him, what are you going to do tomorrow, he had no idea. And the reason why was because to make a prediction about our future, we use the building blocks of memory. So we construct the future through our past experiences. And if this guy, he didn't have any memories, like that guy from 50 First Dates, where he's like, hi, I'm every 5 minutes. He had no memory. And so because he couldn't remember what he'd done in his life, he had no memory. He had no building blocks in order to say, okay, based on my past experiences, I'm going to construct what tomorrow looks like, what next year looks like. He had no like 5-year plan because he had no memory. So it's kind of like, if you rewrite the future by rewriting the past, right? If you remember the past differently, you construct a different future. So if you're like, my mother drank, my grandmother drank, everybody in my family always drinks, and they always die of liver disease. It's like, well, you don't have to do that. If you tell a different story, if you're like, well, that's what I'm going to do. If you don't tell that story, if you kind of go, okay, so, you know, that person drank, but my auntie, she actually joined an AA program, and she got clean, and she lived to be 112. And that's the choice I'm going to make, right? It's kind of like, add more information or choose a different building block, because there's a different route available to you. So with, I don't know, equality, it's like, here he comes, right? Here he comes up out the ocean. It's like King Triton coming up, picking up the Little Mermaid. It's like, here he comes, he's arriving. He's coming to get you. I think Davina McCall, I watched an interview with Dina McCall on TikTok this morning about, she had a drug addiction, terrible drug addictions to all drugs, she was saying. And she chose herself. She kind of hit rock bottom, and she she decided herself to kind of like sort herself out, and she joined a net like it was NA, Narcotics Anonymous, and she went for like again like 40 days, like every single day, and yeah, she chose to break that habit. Equality, I don't know. Maybe it's about gender roles, you know, what a woman can and can't do. And then you've got strategy and fecundity. So it seems like your reading ends. So September ends for you with you having the owl in education and the wizard of awareness. It's like you've learned something, right? You've got a piece of the puzzle. That's making me think of like Aries' reading. It was like they had the final piece of the puzzle that was like slotting into the brain. It's like you've got the information you needed in order to make a plan, in order to strategize. Again, it could just be something about like getting pregnant. Fecundity and rain, it talks about like using the tools that are available to you in a optimized way, right? It's like being very practical, being very like expertly using the funds that you have available, something like that. So it's kind of like not overspending, but kind of being like, we'll just buy what we need and save the rest. So you've got this kind of like strategy to do this. So yeah, all good, Taurus. I hope you've enjoyed this reading. That's kind of it for you. My knees are hurting. I am old. Just to note as well, I've got some screensavers from, I just felt like changing, you know, like my lock screen and wallpaper. Seems to be a lot of stuff about the stars for you. So just in case it's relevant to you, it may be something you want to do this month. And again, I was already in your energy, I was channeling for you. And I ended up going on, because I like to have like space, like NASA images on my phone. It helps me when I'm channeling and things like that. So I went to NASA's Instagram page, and they had a wallpaper option, and you could go and flick through kind of like wallpaper backgrounds for your phone, and kind of like click on it and kind of like screenshot it and use it. It was kind of like they were encouraging you to do this, because I think NASA's images, a lot of them are kind of like open source, like they can be used for whatever you want to use them for, as long as it's not like you're not making money off it kind of thing. As long as it's like personal use, you can use them. So yeah, so I went and got like one of them's like a new galaxy being born, and I think one of them's like a whole like solar system, like a nebula. So I've got these two new images from my lock screen, and I kind of love them. Just in case that's something you want to do, I don't know, to like connect with your starseed roots or something like that. So Young and Beautiful is the song that's playing. Can we get another song for, I don't know, like Nothing Left But My Aching Soul, right? I know you will. It's like a love that transcends the physical experience. It's kind of like an immortal soul energy. Soulmates, perhaps. Here's where the story ends. Aries had the same thing. Aries had the beginning at the end of the reading. Like the last card of the reading was the beginning. It's like it begins at the end, right? And you've got here's where the story ends. People I know, places I go, make me feel tongue-tied. I can see how people look down there on the inside. Here's where the story ends. People I see weary of me, showing my good side. I can see how people look down. I'm on the outside. You never should have said the books that I read were all I loved you for. Crazy, I know, places I go make me feel so tired. I think a rest. I think, honestly, Taurus, I think if you're feeling a little bit like done, you know, like I'm done, it could just be that you've kind of like a bit weary of whatever situation you've been in, right? You know, when you just kind of like, you've been in a situation too long, you kind of get fed up with it. Like you get fed up with the BS of the situation, you know, like office politics, or your friends being kind of like, ugh, will it ever learn? I just think you're kind of like done with something. And, you know, like I say, I don't think you should ever purposefully opt out yourself of the human experience, if you get what I'm saying. Like I would encourage you not to do that, like maybe go and get a therapist. But it feels like, because you've got the 4 of air, it's not the 9 of air, it feels like you're just worn out. You just need like 2 weeks off. You need to go and be a child again with your friends. You just need to kind of like be at home with your family. It's kind of like whatever you're kind of like sick and done with, you need a break. You need a break. You need a rest. And I think you're going to have a change of perspective when you do that. So don't don't do anything silly. I want to say, Taurus, you're going to be okay. Like, again, you come out of September with a plan, with a new strategy, because you've understood something on a childlike level, which I think is going to be really healthy and healing for you. So keep plowing on, take that rest if you get the opportunity to do so, or break the chain, right? Whatever you've been doing, do something different. A change is as good as a rest. And I hope this is helpful to you. Do take care of yourselves, stick with it, and I will see you for your September, October reading. I'll see you soon, guys. Bye.